Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This time I am not making a Warframe video. I'm G and I have been a long time fan of this company Airship Syndicate that did this wonderful game Wayfinder. I've been following their work for a long time, ever since this team did Darksiders and Darksiders 2. So this game to me was, even before release, very special, and after its release, after I played it became even more special. Now this game is like 6 or 7 months years old, and I've been refraining from doing the review because it's really dear to me and I want to do it justice. So let's see if it works. But first of all, let me give you a little bit of context behind the release or behind the development of the game. When Airship Syndicate first inceptioned this game, it was supposed to be just a fantasy game where you play with a character and explore the world and all around and all that. I don't know if they had in mind already 1 or 2 or 3 characters, but their idea was to make a solo adventure, a solo cinematic adventure. But as they talked to publishers, as they talked to developers, as they talked to even Sony, on the rise was the live service. This was around the time where they were, we were in the pandemic and all that. So live service was something that everybody was pushing because everybody thought, oh, they're going to be at home a long time. So, want to push for this kind of project that are a long time investment, not only of money of the companies, but also of the players. So they talked to different people. One of them was Sony. Sony actually backed the project. And another one that they talked, which also got my interest, was they talked to Digital Extremes, the developer of Warframe. Now, as you know, I play a lot of Warframe, so I'm quite familiar with this company and how they work and how the systems works and how they try to do things. At least back in the day, back when Steve was still the creative director of Warframe, I saw a lot of complications in the system they created. They created systems that they weren't fully developed or they weren't fully integrated, and some of those systems still remain in the game to this day. Only with Rebecca did these systems really started to be polished and ironed out and fit in exactly with the game. I can now say that I have a much more pleasant experience playing Warframe than I did, I don't know, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years ago. I think that's all towards Rebecca. Now, when Airship Syndicate went to Digital Extremes, they didn't talk exactly with the team of the Warframe, not the team now. They just talked with the publishing part, the heads up and all that. And they decided to back them up while they were doing this. So when the game released, I was praying for it to work. But knowing Digital Extremes and knowing that every single time the Warframe has an update, those servers just crash all over the place. They just do. The system that they have, I think it's peer-to-peer. It's not a dedicated server. So, from my understanding, it's your computer or your machine that's hosting the game. It's not like a dedicated server that's prepared for that. That's why in Warframe, every time somebody leaves a mission, it's really complicated. When you see host migration, you just put your hands up because you might lose the entire progress, because the progress of the game, of the mission, is now being copied or transported from one machine to the other. So when they said they were going to, handle the server infrastructure for Wayfinder, I was like, this is not a good idea. And it wasn't. As soon as Wayfinder came out, there was crash after bug after, people couldn't get in the game, people got kicked out of the game, people couldn't log in, and all sorts of problems. And this really polluted the environment around Wayfinder. For the very little people that tried it first, they tried to do the open betas and so that, they said it was amazing, but as soon as it became public, it was a hellstorm. Now, to add insult to injury, shortly after, they had a change of management where Steve Steve Sinclair, who was the creative director of Warframe, passed to be the president of Digital Extremes, and immediately after, they just cut off Wayfinder. Now, the official response was that the Digital Extremes just stopped having a publishing department. Everybody got laid off, and some of them maybe went to other departments. But from the perspective of Airship Syndicate, at least as they described it on an interview they did with the Friends Possession podcasts, they said they just woke up one day and they look at Twitter and they look at I don't know if it was the Discord or Reddit, and they saw this immense backlash, this immense anger in the community that this game was just being shut down. The game was just shut down. People wouldn't log in. And only then they contacted Digital Extremes, and only then Digital Extremes actually responded to them. So it wasn't a really transparent agreement. It wasn't something they had planned and really told the players, okay, but upon this day we will stop serving Warframe, we'll disconnect the servers, we'll make something. It was a really I don't want to say shitty. I don't know what went behind it. I don't know what kind of problems they already had, or if they had even problems, but it was a bit shady. It was a bit shady. Something behind us didn't work out, and we're probably never going to hear the entire story. What we do know is that Airship Syndicate did not let this game die. They decided to take the loss, take the L, put in some of their own money. They put their own money. I mean, tell me one company in the last, 10 years that actually put their own money in the project that they love, the project they were doing. I'll wait. Just write it down in the comment section if you have one of those. Moving on. They backed their own game and they decided to turn it back to what it was, or to at least to the idea that it was in the beginning, to be a solo progression game. Now, this couldn't be entirely rolled back. A lot of the systems were already in place, a lot of the progression, a lot of the boss design, the enemy design was already made, so you have to play the game multiple times until you get the drop or the armor or whatever it was. And that thing still stands. What was worse was that people that actually pay for the game to be a MMO, to be to play with other people, to have the cosmetics above people, to have the progression above people, they just got nerfed. I mean, when Wayfinder became Wayfinder Echoes, all those players lost their progression. I don't know if they kept what they bought, but they felt it was kind of shady that they bought to have this exclusive content and to back the game, and then Airship Syndicate didn't have a way to amend this, so it just cut the entire progression. I don't know if it took away their things or if it left it in the game, but it was complicated, and I fully understand people that were mad at the game, mad at Airship Syndicate because they did this, especially those who didn't know Airship Syndicate, especially those who just wanted to play MMO, because just looking at the game, it seemed like it was a no-brainer. It seemed like a sure thing, but it wasn't. Still, Wayfinder Echo was available in early access. I think it was in August that I bought it, because that's around my birthday. I bought the PlayStation 5 exclusively to play this game, and I put my money down on this game. This game was, I don't want to even say it's half price. It's just on a discount. It's like a quarter of what games usually try to sell you now, around $80, $90. This game, I bought it at $25, and I've seen it now at $15. And it's just giving away gold, giving away pearls. You really need to just, if don't go to McDonald's, don't go to the movies, just take us an evening and just go buy the game and try it out. Try it out without reservations of all the things that I've talked to you. Just go and try to have fun. And my God, when I played this game was exactly what I wanted about the game. I mean, you have the open worlds, you have the progressive generated dungeons, you have multiple characters, all of them have wonderful kits, You have the aesthetic, you have the spectacular, the spectacle, spectacle, the spectacular effects, the exhilaration of conquering something. And I mean, I was floored. I was floored at how good this game was. I can honestly say that I stopped playing Warframe to play Wayfinder, and I only went back to Warframe after I completed everything in Wayfinder. I do mean everything. I platinumed the game, and even after platinuing the game, I was still getting stuff. I still got like all the armors and all the mounts and all that, because I just think this game is really good. It's not a perfect game, but you can see that the potential that this game had is so underdeveloped, and even being underdeveloped, it's still damn good. So, after this ramble of 10 minutes presentation, let me tell you about the game. So what type of game is Wayfinder? Now, Wayfinder is a third-person shooter slasher action RPG with open world and procedural generated dungeons. You can play solo or in groups of 3 with multiplayer. Now, if you want to play in groups of 3, at least on the PlayStation, you'll have to buy PlayStation Plus. This is unfortunately not like Genshin, where you can go to a dungeon, select, and matchmake with people that want to play with you. It doesn't work like that. But even so, it's pretty fun. In the open world, you fight with grunts and you clear areas, and there's sometimes some mini bosses or events that can happen, and you can participate to get, loot. In the dungeons, you fight the aggro that comes around you, and sometimes there's a lot of it, and at the end of each dungeon, there's a boss. And this boss, sometimes it has mechanics, sometimes it doesn't. You just have to, push through it until you complete the level. Now, when you go into these dungeons, you can add modifiers. These are these gemstones that you can put in, and they'll give you, sometimes the levels will have lava, sometimes the levels will have fire, sometimes they'll have toxic gas, sometimes they'll have toxic flower, sometimes they'll have dark crystals and all that. The 2 first slots are modifiers that actually compound with each other. If you put 2 of fire, it goes from little fires to lava. If you put fire and toxic, you have toxic plants that actually shoot out lava, and that sort of thing. So there is several combinations. The 3rd slot that you can only fill after the 2 first slots are full is a buff. Is something that will actually benefit you as a passive during the game. It could be you get armor for each loot that you found, you get health for each gas cloud that appears, and so on and so on. So it's a really fun modifier. I can see why this is complicated to then make matchmaking, because if you go to the same dungeon but the other players don't have the same modifier, you can't really match those. For instance, I'm going to a dungeon, I want to have the modifier fire because I want to gather fire stones, and another one is toxic, so he wants toxic stones. Sometimes those two cannot coexist, so it's kind of complicated to matchmake like that. I fully understand, but still, it is a fun system, and I think it's one of those novelties that really makes this game stand out from other games. Then you have the characters. You have 8 characters from choose from. From the beginning you have 3, which is Wingrave, Nis, and Nero. Each comes with their own set of abilities. Some are more offensive and others are more defensive, which I'll talk a little bit more further ahead. And each comes with its own specific weapons. For instance, Wingrave uses the sword and shield, Nis uses these daggers, and Nero uses a rifle. Now, the good thing about this, which is another point that this game stands out, you can swap weapons between each category. So there's not really categories in order. You can't say, oh, this is an assassin, so he uses daggers. Oh, this is a defender, so he uses a shield and sword. No, you can swap the game around. Wingrave can use a rifle, Nis can use sword and shield, and so that brings a level of customization, of build, and then even of playful to the game, that you can actually change the characters to what you want to play. So me, when I play with Nis, I don't play with a double dagger, I play with a big scythe, because she's already so fast that she can use a slow and heavy weapon actually powerful weapon because I can move her so fast. But when I play with Kairos, which is another character that you get further ahead, which actually uses the scythe, I actually play him with daggers because he is so powerful with his special attacks, and the attacks are kind of slow that I prefer that he moves around faster with his daggers. So this kind of customization actually increases the playfulness of the game. Most of these characters are unlocked through playing the game. You do prerequisite quests or open world events, and you then can unlock them. What you need is to go and you talk to Omen, which Omen is the sorceress that actually helps you throughout your journey, and she rescues these characters from the abyss. Only 2 characters are not obtained like this, which is Grendel and Venomous. These came with the battle pass. Of course, like I said, some of the live service elements are still in the game because they just couldn't completely remove them or integrate them indifferently. So these 2 characters come with the game. When you play the game, the case has these 2 battle passes, and by completing these battle passes, you can then summon them from Owen. And just so you know, Grendel is actually one of the favorites of the community because he's just really powerful. So if you have enough gear to increase his survivability, because he, when he's taking damage, he doesn't even know that he's taking damage, so he can die without you even notice. But when you have enough good gear, you can really go hammer on everyone, including the bosses, with him. In the midst of all this, what's the actual story of Wayfinder? Now, Wayfinder is a term they use for people that are rescued from the abyss. As I've said before, you have Oven, which is this sorceress that saves you from the abyss. The abyss is something that is destroying the world, it's just taking over the world. And the last bastion of humanity is called Skylight, which actually was the original name for this game. Then they switch it to Wayfinder and then to Wayfinder Echo. So Skylight is the last bastion of the human civilization, and Omen rescues these warriors that were killed in the abyss so they can now fight against the abyss. You start the game in Skylight, which is the city. There you meet numerous NPC, people that will help you with the modifiers, help you to buy weapons, help you to buy new accessories, help you to forge new items and all that. All these characters are really well portrayed and they have their own voices, and it's really wonderful when you meet them and they have their own personality. That's really, really cool. But then you go into the Highlands. Highlands is the first open world that you encounter, and it's basically a forest, and in there you just ride around with your horsey. The time you have a horse, then you have other mounts. You get your first experience fighting enemies in the open world and in the dungeons, but also you have secret bosses and secret puzzles and secret areas that are really wonderful to explore. I really like this about this game. After that you go to Frostwatch, which is like an abandoned outpost that you rescue further in the game, and then you go to the Crucible, which is where the last expansion is, and it's just basically just a big forest. Frostwatch is like a frozen tundra and with mountains, and the Crucible is just a tropical forest where you actually unlock the last character. Now, because these worlds are so different, even the dungeons are different. For instance, in the Highland, the dungeons are really claustrophobic. They're just these narrow corridors where you have to fight the aggro on each corner. You have to be aware there might be booby traps, there might be enemies, there might be bosses, there might be mid-bosses, there might be stronger enemies. So at each turn, you kind of have to navigate yourself a little bit to see what you're going to find on the other side. On Frostwatch, the dungeons aren't really particularly dungeons, they're just big areas put together. I really enjoy this. I really like this. They feel like open worlds, but they're not. And you kind of have to navigate because the areas are so vast that you actually have to find enemies, or enemies can come out of nowhere when you want to go, and you have to kind of learn how to navigate yourself because it could be a little bit of a labyrinth just to find your bearings, which in one way is cool, but on the other, when you want to gather resources, it's really more time consuming than the ones in the Highland, because the dungeons in the Highlands are smaller, just smaller, so it's easy just to get resources. And then in the Crucible, you have the same thing as these areas as you have in the Frostwatch, but you also have verticality. There's a lot of levels to each dungeon, so you can go up, you can go down. There's some of them where you really have to find your way. You also have the use of a grappling hook that's just introduced on this part of the game. And what differs this dungeon from all the others, there's here you can use mounts. On the other ones you cannot use mounts inside the dungeons. Here you can use mounts to travel faster from one way to the other, because the areas are just, you know, complicated to navigate. They're also bigger. They're not bigger than the Frostwatch. I think the Frostwatch are the ones that are bigger, but to navigate yourself, they decided, well, it takes so long to navigate this, let's put mounts. I really think the Frostwatch also should have mounts, but other than that, they don't differ that much from the other. For instance, you don't have climbing, you don't have flying, you don't have any of these things that you might find on other games, for instance on Genshin, but the game is what it is. One aspect of the game that I really like is absolutely the combat. Now, I've played Darksiders and this feels the same. You know, combat feels impactful. It feels heavy. When the character's walking around with a heavy blade, you can feel the weight on it. When he swings it, you can feel the weight on it. When he uses a rifle, you can feel the recoil. You can feel the impact of the shots. You can hear the sounds. You can see the spectacle of the hits when it releases gas or when it releases fire. This is all top notch. I really enjoy combat in this game. The only difference is, if you're comparing it, for instance, for Warframe is like 90% shooting and 10% melee. This one is like 80% melee and about 20% shooting, or even less. I figured that, you know, shooting is good in open areas. That's why Frostwatch and Crucible are good for these kinds of characters. But in the dungeons, in closed spaces, or even if you want to do a lot of damage, I still prefer melee. I still think melee is best. You know, hitting the enemy, dodging away, and hit him in again, and just defending yourself. I really enjoy that. But if you want to use shooting, rifle, go right ahead. This game allows it. And there's some weapons that are really powerful. Some shotguns can one-shot, I don't want to say bosses, but at least the big enemies, they can take down when one shot properly built. So it's really fun. It has everything for everyone. Another thing I absolutely love about this game is the exploration. Like I said, in the dungeons, in the open worlds, for each area you have secret bosses, you have secret puzzles, you have secret areas, you have in the dungeons little things that you might discover, little areas that hide little treasures, a little lore. And I mean, that's what I like about games. I really like to explore a game. I really like to get in the nitty-gritty of it. I like the combat, of course, but I also like to know what the developers imagined this world will be, what came out of the imagination of the creative director and of the team, what effort was put into it. And in this game was put a lot of effort. I found things right in the first area, the first open world highlands. I found some of the things that was like, why the hell is this here? Why the hell is this totem here? Why the hell is this statue here? And those little hints is what makes me lean forward in the games. You know, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. What's this for? And you know, I could have gone to the internet and tried to figure it out, but I like to do it on my own. I like to figure it out. Only after, you know, I really think it's frustrating or really think it's badly made, then I go to try and find it on the internet. I might do a few puzzles. If this video goes well, I might do a few more videos explaining some of the puzzles that I found. But I really advise you to try for yourself, because it's half the fun of this is just figuring it out for yourself. Just saying, this is what it is. The sense of exhilaration that I got when I saw one of these puzzles was amazing. I really recommend you do it also. So, after you unlock the areas, after you kill the bosses, and after you've discovered some of the story, what are the objectives of the game? The objective of the game, like every looter shooter, is to get more loot. There's loot that's hidden, in quests, in puzzles, and you get better loot by doing the game more times, fighting bosses more times, doing dungeons more times. This is again something that came out of the live service blueprint that this game was done on, and it's only necessary if you want to fight at higher levels. If you want to do the game in normal, just finish the game, you can do it exactly without having to do a lot of effort to find the loot or to find the proper armor for the character A, B, or C. You can do the entire game with one character with a gear that falls down in normal. But if you want to challenge yourself to the harder or the very hard levels, you have to get the legendary gear. To get the legendary gear, you have to, you know, you have to put some hours into it, and I did. I absolutely enjoyed it. After I did the dungeons, I went back and did the dungeons again. Then I went at the bosses, and now, you know, I just had fun. If you have that inner child in you, if you have this playfulness in you, you will want to do more of it. So yeah, that really appealed to me, and this is the objective of the game, for you to have fun. Then you go to the end game. The end game is basically mythic hunts. Mythic hunts are the bosses that you already encountered, which are stronger, or bosses that you already encountered but have modifiers. They have little things that are different. For instance, there's a treasure chest that you have to find where it is on the normal level, and then when you get to a mythic hunt, that treasure chest actually pours molten gold onto you, and it creates little treasures around, and there's even a method where you have to find all the 4 treasures and you get even more loot. So, you know, they have different mechanics when you get to this legendary hunts where the legendary gear drops. Also, when you get legendary gear, and the best legendary gear is in mythic hunts, you also have to level them up. Now, it's a bit dicey to level them up, because to level them up the characters to 5 stars, it takes time, it takes a toll. I did it to all the characters because I really enjoyed every one characters, and it can be done with a little bit of time. But to level up the weapons, that's where you have a big problem, because like I said before, to gather resources in the Highland dungeons, it's easy. I won't say easier, but it's easier. But in the Frost March and in the Crucible dungeons, then it's really complicated. There's few resources. You don't get resource boosts. You don't any kind of looter duplication or something like that, or forging these items. So it takes a long time. I managed to level up all the characters to 5 stars, but the weapons I only level up 1 of each, and they weren't even the legendary ones, because I started leveling up those that I have resources for, and for the other ones, you know, there's a lot of weapons, and to level them up all to 5 stars would be crazy. It wouldn't be fun. That's when the game wouldn't be fun. It would be like Warframe. So I said, no, I'm not doing this. But for what you get, at least the characters are good to level up to level 5, because then you get a little something that it's absolutely amazing to get. I might do a separate video just to show you the skins for each time you level up a character to level 30, and then each time you level a character to level legendary, which is 5 stars. And I mean, they all look amazing. So just for that alone, I advise you to level up the characters. After all is said and done, let's talk about the ups and downs of the game. Now, the ups I already mentioned in, which is the characters, the world itself, the world building, the combat, the exploration. There's also artifacts, which is artifacts that drop from bosses that you can use as modifiers or passive modifiers when you're doing missions and dungeons, because they provide you more loot, provide more damage, and all that sort of thing. And you also have mounts, which are, you know, you start with horses, but then you get really good mounts. I look at them and I'm like, nah, that's what I'm talking about. They're really good. And you also have decorations. You have a home where you can go and put, you know, sometimes a boss will drop a blueprint for something, or maybe you will find a blueprint for a chair, or maybe you will find even elements around doing the dungeons that you can then put in your home. Maybe when you defeat a certain boss, you get a little something to put there. There's even pets. You cannot take them on missions, which is kind of a bad thing. I think it would be nice to get them on missions, but they'd be on your home, and you can just, you know, do your little thing there. And I've done that. I've done everything, even with the Christmas decorations, which they have not taken down. So this game will be forever Christmas, which is a good thing. So you have all those things. But I mean, just looking at the world, just looking at this world, I cannot believe the amount of effort that they put into this. There are no straight lines. That's one of the things that makes it feel like handmade, because everything that's handmade, it's not perfectly lined up. You know, in a machine you can perfectly line up everything, but in this game everything is broken, it's cracked, it's weathered, it's crooked, it's amazing. I mean, I don't know if they do it like in an algorithm or if they do it by hand. I don't care. I just care that it looks amazing. And like I said, I felt like a kid playing again when I play with my toys. When I play with my He-Man and my Skeletor in Grayskull. And yes, I am that old. So I had the same feeling playing this game, and it was amazing. But the game is not without its flaws. One of the major ones, it's the menus. The menus don't seem to make a lot of sense to me, because you have the menus for the characters and for the modifiers of the world all in the same space. You have the abilities that you cannot fully develop, because there's only given 7 points to develop each ability of the Wayfinder, and you only can max maybe 1 or 2. You cannot max 1. So maybe this was something like an afterthought, that maybe with an expansion they would do it, but they never got around to it. Another thing that also doesn't make sense is that you cannot find accessories based on their buffs. I mean, you can match them per set, but you don't know what each set does. Imagine I want a set that does buffs health, buffs armor, and buffs damage. I cannot anywhere put these 3 buffs and see what artifacts I have for those. So I have to go set by set trying to find the one that matches all these 3, and I have to take a little notebook and make an addition that, so it'll be a lot easier to have this just immediately like that. Also, when you're trying to find an inventory, each polarity, you cannot do it. You cannot do it for polarity. You have to do it. You can go to the inventory and say polarity, and it gives you all of them. You can only find them by polarity when you're in the character menu. In the character menu, because the slot is fixed, you try to pick that one, and you have those that are the same polarity. It is kind of confusing to have one and not the other, depending on which menu you are. So yeah, there's that. Also, something I mentioned before, there's no matchmaking. Now, I have mentioned because of the modifiers. The game is cheap. It should have more people playing one with the other, instead of having these, one doing one thing over here and another one doing one thing over there. However, there was a PlayStation Plus weekend where the PlayStation Plus was free, and I did play with other players, and it was a blast. I mean, playing this with other people, I mean, they were lower, some of them were lower level, but we actually managed to end the console wars just on that play, because we had me on PlayStation, we had somebody else on Xbox, and we had somebody else on PC, and the 3 of us were just having a blast playing together. That's the beauty of playing together in this ecosystem. The only problem was, well, not really a problem, it's just one of the things that I noticed. It wasn't harder. The game didn't become harder because there was 3 players. I thought there would be more enemies, or stronger enemies. Warframe does this, Genshin does this, and depending on the level of the players, they actually modify the mission to be more challenging. In this case, I didn't feel that. Okay, I had a good build, a better build probably than the others, but still I didn't feel an increase in number of enemies. At least that I did not feel, which I wanted to feel. I wanted to feel a little bit dangerous because I'm going with a buddy instead of going alone. So yeah, that's one of the things I noticed. Another thing that was down for me was the story. The story is very simple. There are a couple of highlight illustrations which I liked, but there's not big parts of animation. There's no cinematics to envelop the story, because like I said, this will make a live service, so they didn't really focus too much, and when they had to actually turn it into a solo exploration action game, they just didn't have the time or maybe the money to just develop that even further. What you get from the main story is acceptable. What you get from the characters is minimal. You get these memories which are scattered around the world, the entire world, in the Crucible, in the Frostwatch, and the Highlands, and they're just little snippets. They're not even animated. They're just like there, and you find them, and okay, it's better than nothing, but it should have been expanded a little bit more. I really feel this is one of those things that it just lacked the development course. It just lacked that. They couldn't do it because of the game situation. So my final thoughts of this game is get it. Just get it. The game is like $15 now, and it probably will even drop more. It will be on PlayStation Plus, or it'll be on Xbox Game Pass or something like that. And just play it. The game is amazing. I mean, I had a wonderful time with it. I really did, and I think this game will be the blueprint that a future game. I don't know who will make it. I don't know if it will be a Chinese company, a Japanese company, an American company, or some other company. But the blueprint of this game is amazing as a live service. You have every possible kind of element that you can use there. You have shooting, you have slashing, you have action, you have RPG, you have exploration, you have loot, you have combat, you have big bosses, you have mounts. I really think this could be a blueprint for a bigger game. I mean, Genshin is doing pretty well, and it was kind of based on Zelda turned into a live service. This is kind of Darksiders turned into MMO, but not fully MMO. If someone picks this game and just builds upon it, they will certainly have a hit on their hands. I kid you not. Yes, the style is a win or loss, you know. It's either you love it or you hate it. But that could be said of Genshin, you know. Some people don't like anime looks. They just don't. They like photorealistic. And some people just want anime. They don't care about photorealism. So yeah, I really think that, somewhere in the future, maybe in the near future, I don't know, somebody will pick this up and go like, okay, we're gonna do this, but right. For this game itself, I really hope they do an expansion. I really hope they do at least one expansion. I'll do a little spoiler here, which is at the end of the game, you find the last boss, and he kind of teases you more. I don't know if this was supposed to be in the game, they just left it, or they left it because they were really hoping that maybe the game would gain traction, maybe they could do more. I think the game deserves at least one other open world, which would be in line with the last boss, which almost feels like an alien world or a dark abyss or something like that. I really loved it. Also, a surface on the art station, other characters that were being developed for this game. One was like a musician. He had like a hammer that was an harp, or a blade that was an harp or something like that, and that was amazing. So one other open world with one other character would be it would just be a kind of a salute to everybody that loved the game, that played the game, and just I'm sorry, my words fail me, a welcome farewell, or a proper farewell, a benign farewell to say, you know, see you on the other one, on the other side, Wayfinders, or see you on the other game, Wayfinders, because this game has done a lot for me. It really has done a lot for me. I mean, I play a lot of live service. I play Genshin, I played 010, I played Warframe, and I kind of was a little bit, how can you say, the game started to feel heavy for me. It started to feel grindy for me. It started to feel like I was in this hamster wheel that I didn't enjoy the game. I played the game to fulfill objectives, but I didn't feel like I was enjoying it. And this game absolutely made me enjoy playing games all over again. I was like 12 again. So if you have the time, if you have $15 lying around, if you want to feel young again, if you want to feel invigorated again for playing video games like they used to be, just get this game and play it. I absolutely recommend it. That's been the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section if you've played the game, if you had experience, good experience, bad experience with it. Just, you know, share your thoughts. And I'll see you on the next one. Until then, have a great game, guys. Because this was certainly one of those.